Hey, it's Caramel. Hey.
Hey, best friend, what's going on?
Listen, running a business, right?
That hair cute. I like that hair. Flip
Don't
it
do
a little
that.
bit. Flip it a little bit.
Don't do that.
Wait,
Because I'm in a big of a bit of a hair struggle right now. So the fact that you're saying that is irritating me. So just so you know,
anyway, people pay good money for hair like that.
I'm sure they do. That's exactly right. It's always the grass is always greener, isn't it?
Exactly. Listen, you talking about running a business. This is what I'm thinking right now is
Mhm.
that it's more than just running a business. It's staying in business. You know what I mean? It's kind of like what the world.
You know what I've realized over the last couple of years is that a business will run as long as you run it. And because in my mind was
Yeah, duh, a
well,
business.
no, that sounds funny, but what I mean by that is whether you're running a hustle business, a side business, a full-time business.
It's echoing. Listen back to it and see how the audio sounds because it's echo.
Hey, caramel.
Welcome in, friends. Look at that hair. It's so cute.
Okay, I'm about
Yeah, Michelle.
and I'm caramel. How you doing? Listen,
You can't just tell me off before you push the button and we start recording. It's
tell you
just
off. Nobody would ever believe that little old me would tell you off anything.
it was a lot of sass. You guys, a lot of sass right then. So how's the day going, best friend?
Listen, I just want you to know that a business will run as long as you run it.
That sounds like we're about ready to quit. What's
Well, no,
going
what I
on?
mean by that is like I realize like when you're hustling, side hustle, side business, full-time business, entrepreneur, solopreneur, whatever you're doing, selling a thing, selling a product, selling a service, when you decide you don't want to do it again, guess what? Then the business ain't running no more. As long as you continue to move forward and lean into whatever that business is, it will continue to grow. Even the people who talk about they were nearly on the brink of just destruction, their lives were in peril and their house didn't get paid and they were about to if they kept going, they will always on the other side say, and I kept going and this is what happened. I'm a millionaire now. Does it?
I guess I see what you're saying that like okay, as long as I keep coming in and opening the door and turning the lights on, the business will continue to go. When I stop, if I don't come in and turn the lights on and open the door, it stops. So, and I know that seems like a very simple concept, but I think what you're trying to say is that as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you have to keep going. As you keep going, so goes the business.
When someone says to me that, I was working this business so hard and I just got tired. Well, you just got tired, so you shut the business down. Not that there's anything wrong with you deciding to do that, but I never want to, it dawned on me that people make excuses for a lot of things, is I guess is what I'm saying, right? Like, and I don't mean any harm by this. If you started a business, I failed many times at these businesses. Like if I had a dollar for every time I started and sold or started and stopped a business concept, you know what I mean? You've been there
Oh,
for quite a few of them.
oh yeah, we've journeyed.
And I
So
guess what I'm in that situation, when I stopped that business for whatever reason, it was my excuse, it was my reason. But had I gone through and forward with
like
it,
business flourished because somebody kept going. If a
correct.
business is still around, if a business is still going, it's because that person kept going. They kept doing the thing that was necessary for the business. Even when it got hard, that's
Hmm.
when you really got to keep going. And I'm gonna just let you guys know, pull back the curtain. It's hard right now.
Yeah. for and and I for both of us, it's not one of us is not we're going through a phase of what's the viability of this business? How much sense does it make to try to grow it or scale it? We talked about that in one of our episodes, scaling and growing and the difference between the two. And when you're in growth mode, having to just kind of keep adding on and tacking on. Right now, my biggest struggle is the fact that I went from little to nothing in terms of operating expenses with little old me running it to now I have employees and real payroll, which has completely obliterated what my budget was, and having to spread those costs over my service, which is the trip to go out of the country. And It's been on. It's at a very sobering time. Does that make sense?
I just sobering is a good word. That's a word you could use. That ain't quite
Right.
the word I use because I'm like, it's a hell of a time right now. I don't drink, but I'm about to start drinking a little something every evening to kind of take the edge off.
Uh huh.
And I don't say that lightly. I will
Sure.
say that it's a time that I'm having to rethink and revamp. Insurance in general is a time it is rough right now, so I think everybody's having to rethink. But what
Hmm.
I do and to how do I keep going? How do I make effort to speak with other people who are in the industry who
Sure.
are having success because there's always somebody who's still having success in your
Mhm.
industry. No matter what
100%.
I tell my team all the time, there's a list that comes out and it shows how everybody does each day. I said, as long as there's somebody on the list, then why can't we be on the list? You know what I mean?
Sure.
So somebody's doing it. And you have to have that one foot in front of the other mindset. How do you walk a million miles, one foot in front of the other? How do you eat an
Yes.
elephant one bite at a
One at a
time?
time. Yeah.
You got to do the things every day. You got to put the energy in. So I guess you are right. You kind of smart. That was kind of
Well,
profound. Say it
the other
again.
well, here's the deal. Like when I say that a business runs as long as you run it, I also think of the idea of strategy. So I'm over 5 years now. I'm thinking about what it looks like. I've added all these bells and whistles, and I call them bells and whistles, but really it's just a matter of growth. You got to
Well,
grow.
is it a bell and whistle? Because a bell and whistle indicates it can be taken away. It's not really needed. It's
Sure.
ancillary. I think you've added some stuff that's
Well, here's the
needed.
thing. We say significant, but the idea is I did run 18 trips successfully by myself without any help. Meaning I had some people who I had hired in as contractors, my host and host assistants. However, I wasn't paying them. They were basically paid through the actual trip that they were on. So in terms of I absolutely could run just a regular, I guess you can call it a side hustle business and not really make a whole lot of money, but
See,
it
I think you got to determine if you because let's first off let's just do the shellisms. Okay, we're gonna call them shellisms.
okay,
Let's take away side hustles because I'm running a full time business.
sure.
This ain't no side hustle. This ain't
Agreed.
something
I am
that
running a business as
yeah,
well.
and it can't be swapped into a side hustle. It is my main source of work, income, and everything. So I think there's two different things. A side hustle can continue to go true, but you can stop it and start it, and it's nothing that you long as you got the cake
Some
pans, you
real
can make
people
cake.
would have it affects real people if the business did go under or didn't
Right.
exist
Like
anymore.
like
So I would agree with that. And
yeah.
I don't want to really be, I don't want to belittle the work that has been put in the effort because you're
Yeah,
right.
it's like
Even
it's
my
not
effort,
a
but
side.
I guess what I'm saying is I could stay small at what I was as a solopreneur, or I could grow it to where I could come out of the business. And you and I have talked about this before. What is an exit strategy, or what does the strategy of the business actually look like?
Oh,
What?
people always want to talk about like I remember when we started, they were like, "Well, how are you gonna end?" I don't know.
Mm.
I just started. How I'm ending before I just started. What are you
But
talking about?
that's always been a thought for me is exactly what that would look like. So here's the example. Right now, having added that payroll and added those people who are part of the team, what that's supposed to do for me is it's supposed to allow me to come from working the day to day inside the business. I never started this business to make me a billionaire and rich. I knew what it would take to make that happen. That wasn't the purpose of it. So I have to
That
really
is interesting to me because I'm sorry, I'm in it to win it and I'm into making some money. So for you to be saying that you don't want to be a billionaire to me, putting a cap on it,
not
that's
that I'm talking about in this business. And so there's a difference. I started the business for the credibility that it would buy me in order to get to the real root of what I was actually trying to get to, and which is what I being the expert in the travel space in my industry. I have achieved that now. I now can train people, the masses, for doing the thing that I do successfully and easily with the blueprint that I've created. That was ultimately the goal when I created the business. It's great and I love it, and it's great and it will provide a way for me to do the travel thing that I love and find these new places. But ultimately, I want it to give me the money that it's giving me, pay the bills that it's paying me. But I want, like to your point, 5 or 6 streams of income, and it's one of them. It's one of them. It wasn't the one that was going to make me the billionaire, but it was solid.
I got you. It's just one. It was a stepping stone to get you to where
Correct.
you're trying to go. I can live with that.
Because here's the other part, right? I've got that, and then I've got the real estate. That's another arm of a business. That's another arm of another income stream that I'm saying, okay, this is what it looks like. But then on top of that, real estate, now I've got some commercial real estate where I'm actually renting space. So that's another third arm of that real estate. I own some houses and I own some commercial space. Well, the next thing I'm trying to get after is selling my personal brand. And I think that that was really what I was ultimately trying to get to. So while I appreciate the business that I have at hand, my mind is thinking, it's only it will run as long as I run it. Well, how about I hire somebody to run it for me? Where's my chief operating officer? You know?
Now that's interesting to have somebody to take over for you. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna be honest. This is my baby. How many people I'm gonna
sure.
let raise my baby? I don't know about this.
So have you thought
Everybody can't babysit for me.
so,
Okay.
and that's the thing. And when in terms of what that looks like, you've seen some people successfully do that in the industry, right? The insurance industry.
Absolutely. That I know friends. I got friends who have managers and office staff and people that run it for them. Yeah, I'm just talking about me. I'm a control freak. You know how I am. I'm like, hey, this is my baby. Can't nobody change. And look at
So
her hair.
ultimately, that's a strategy. What you've just discussed is that's your strategy. Your strategy is, look, this is what I love to do. I saw this.
Mm-mm.
Oh, let me
It
back
ain't
up.
it
Okay,
ain't
what?
quite what I love to do.
Okay.
I'm a sales manager. I like to strategize and that type of thing, but I would not like to have to be so involved in a day to day. I really would like to step away. But my controlness is holding me hostage, okay? I'm being
Well,
held
I
hostage
want to
here.
let's qualify that for a second, or let's qualify that because I think that it also ultimately allows you to go do the things that you do and love and are passionate about. I know that you take several meetings throughout the day to go do the things that you love to do. Is that not correct?
I do, but the feeling that I'm still tethered to it. Like I still feel like I have to come in at 8:30. I still feel like I need to be here till 5:30. That type of being tethered to the business. What I'd like to get to is where I don't have to come in at all and I could take my meetings and go and do what I have to do and not feel like I have to be in here. Because to your point, a business will run as long as you run it, but I still feel like I have to materially participate in order for this to keep running, that if I stop coming, that it will stop running.
So I will say that what I do love about being a business owner is the autonomy to come and go at will. What one thing that really struck me over the last several weeks is that I went all the way to Bali on a retreat, all the way to Bali on a retreat from America, and I had 3 trips running for me that I wasn't really materially involved in. I had 6 people who were working for me on 3 separate trips in separate parts of the world. One in Amsterdam, one in Egypt, and one in Paris. And literally, I was in Bali having the time of my life, enjoying myself and the fruits of my labor for building that business. That to me is enough freedom that when I talk about being a billionaire, that sounds great and wonderful and billionaire works, but I was in Bali, freaking Bali, while my business was running by somebody else. And so I think that we all have to really we have to really think about what we're really trying to get after. And that's where I'm at in this business right now. I have a whole whiteboard behind me thinking about what that next thing looks like so I don't feel like, tethered and, do I have to do this? You know what I mean?
And I will say it's getting easier.
Sure.
It's getting a lot easier for me. And I think some of that as an entrepreneur, you can have control issues and feel like you have to. I don't know if I have to do that. I don't know if anybody's expecting me. I'm pretty sure if
Sure.
you talk to my team, they're like, Michelle, you ain't never here. You always gone. And I'm like, I'm always here. What you mean?
Right.
It's like
Right.
how your kids look at you. Mama, you don't never cook. Boy, I cook every day. Mama.
Right.
You're like, wait, it's the
Right.
perception. What I think is going on and what has to happen. I will say this: I have a plan.
Okay.
This show, CEO Chronicles, is part of my plan, part of my platform. What I
Cool.
like to see it grow into, and so click
Yes.
like and share if you are a part, and tell your friends about this podcast and how much you
Sure.
love it.
Sure.
So that's a part of my plan. I'd like to see us do more with this, and I like to expand this into a master class, so that becomes my third stream. I also am looking for my next actual material business,
Mhm.
and I'm trying to figure out what that looks like and what would be the next type of business. So I've been looking for spaces, and I'm trying to figure out what is it, because like I said, I feel like you need to have once you do one business, you seem like you become a serial entrepreneur,
You
and you're
do.
looking for your next opportunity. What's the next thing I can do? So your enterprises, that's why I'm GMJ Enterprises, and it
Mhm.
the enterprises will grow. And so that's what I'm looking at. And so I like your point that you're making, that the business will run as long as you run it. And
Sure.
so how long do you plan on running your little business? Huh?
Well, to be quite
Your
honest,
little business.
right, right. To be quite honest, when I think in terms of long term, if the business paid for itself and paid the salary I needed to pay for me, and it paid the salary for the people who work for the business, then it does its job. As long and so I'm literally right now in the throes of creating a report that tells me, here's my overhead, here's my operating expenses, my payroll, and here on the other side is how many trips that we need to take in order to meet that goal. And I have to be very honest with myself and critical about what that number look like, because that's a number. Like
Let me
it's
tell
literally.
y'all, she love reports and little line items. She gonna get to spouting numbers pretty soon. I
well
need
be,
222 times 47 is gonna equal 5. Girl, stop.
Well, because here's the thing. When you know the number, you just work backwards. And what's happening, right?
Really, Caramel? That's what you do?
It's
That's
so
what
profound, right?
she's talking like she know math, y'all. Don't let her fool you.
Right. Because
Ask her
I do not
ask
know
her to
public math.
do some quick math in her. Wait a minute, stop now.
But the idea is once you do know the number and you work backwards, you can come to the lowest common denominator and know what that looks like. And then it
Absolutely.
becomes really easy to run it. So now it's just a matter of planning and plugging and play. And I can be honest and say that in the beginning, before these 5 years, it literally was income in, income out. I had no strategy, I was literally just trying to run and build the
And if you're
business.
going to continue your business, you have got to put something down on some paper.
Sure.
You've got to have something somewhere in the paper, your computer, whatever you little technology you
A
want to use.
notebook.
But you got to have something that you utilize to show and see where you're going. It's like used to be a map. Now it's GPS. If you don't know where you're going, how are you going to get there? So
Sure.
you've got to have a strategy. You've got to put something in the GPS to give you a direction or give you an idea of where you're going. You might have an idea where you want to go, but if you do the GPS, it'll tell you exactly, oh, yeah, that's what I thought it was, or that's what I thought I needed to do. So I'm proud of you
So
putting it on paper.
Well, so the other part is so in the exit strategy, I think that that's a critical, and we're going to actually have a show on exit strategies and what that looks like, because I think that's important. Some people, you think about an exit strategy as a plan for a founder or an owner that makes or sells their company, they want to sell it. Maybe they want to offer shares to the company. Maybe they want to look for other investors to make it bigger or join another firm to make it solid. Whatever that looks like, um, I think we need to make sure that we're dealing with that. What I don't want to happen, which I have seen happen all the time, and this is a cautionary tale for me. When I walk into the, I don't know, dry cleaner, and I walk in there and I see a desk behind the counter and it's piled stock high of 2 feet of paper, and all you can tell the calendar is from 1975 on the wall. It's because they just are doing a job every day. I don't want another job.
They're being the technician. They're being the technician
Sure.
for the business. They're doing the thing that they're passionate about. They're the mechanic. They're doing the mechanic. They're the hairstylist. They're doing the work. Whereas when you have that stuff piled up, that's the stuff you don't want to do. That's the part you don't like. And I think that that's important. My passion, I like the paperwork. I like the numbers. I like
Yeah.
digging into that kind of thing. I like the strategy. I like putting the plan together. I have my whiteboard for the business. I
Hmm.
can, and people are like, well, my husband, he's very technical, and he's like, well, why, you can put that on a spreadsheet, you can have it in a computer. I said, I understand that. I said, but when I walk in my office and I look at that whiteboard, it causes me to think, and it
Sure.
causes me to say, hey, we're not writing as much business today. It's been 2 or 3 days this person hasn't written any business. Oh, they've doing the quotes. I need to get the quote volume up. I see instantly what we're doing. Oh,
Correct.
we had so far this month, we only had one day that we didn't write some business. What happened on that day? What was going on?
Yeah.
So it all that information is captured. We got a contest going on. I see where we are with all that's
Yeah.
on that board. Now I can open my computer, but when I look at that board, that keeps the business going.
Instantaneous. It's
It's
immediate. I can immediately see the issue. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Or I can sit there and ponder at my desk and look at it and think through and say, and that's what keeps the business going
Yeah.
as long as you keep going. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
You
So,
can't put your head in the sand and think that it's just going to get better by not looking at it.
and sometimes you want to do that. I'm gonna be honest. Sometimes you want to do that. Bills come
Girl,
in and debt, and you start thinking to yourself, what the heck?
why? Why? Right.
What do I need to do? What do I need to hear? Like what, how do I make this happen? And I'm just thinking to myself,
And the other part of that is when you read those reports or you look at that information, sometimes you realize it's not as bad as you thought. And you have a way out. And that's how you get to the actual other side of said problem, right? Said financial problem, said production problem, said sales problem, whatever that looks like. Right now, we have a sales issue. We don't have enough people buying. But then I went back and looked at the real numbers and said, what you mean? You just had 5 sales last week, 5 sales the week before. You had a total of 15 sales in April. Are you really that bad? We really only have
but then you also, that sounds like a lot of growth, but then if you are supposed to be at 30 sales, you see what I'm saying? You got to know your numbers. What
sure.
was I supposed to have? So 15 sounds like a lot, but did you need 30? Did
And
you need
that was the
20?
point. I needed 16. So I was like, okay, well, we're almost there. I didn't feel as bad because I knew what was had to happen. And so I'm like, all right, well, we still in the right here in the middle of the month. We shaking now. We just offered another sale. Like all of those things to your point is what a business will run as long as you continue to run it. If I decided not to put another email out or lower a price or make a sale or send something as a
Put the
secret.
effort. If you're not putting the effort out there, then
Yeah.
that's how your business can stop. And I think that's important that people understand that if you're not trying, then guess what? It's not going to happen.
Right.
You got to do something. You've
Sure.
got to do something. And it's hard because sometimes you get overwhelmed. It can just seem like, wait a minute, what did I do?
So
What
the strategies for doing that for me to move forward, it is literally using the whiteboard to figure out, okay, what's next? What's the most pressing issue right now? What's the pressing issue that I see in next 90 days? What's the pressing issue I see next year? Where do I need to get to? So I feel like you should do that in chunks. You do a really excellent job with the 12-week year, right?
Yes, 12-week year is something that was presented to me by my company when I
Hmm.
initially started. And what that is that you take the year, instead of you doing the whole year,
Hmm.
52 weeks, you break it up into 12 weeks. And so for 12 weeks, you pick out the things that you're going to focus on. And
Yep.
those are the things that you're going to get accomplished. And it seems simple, but
Hmm.
I'm telling you, when you do it, one thing I learned about that is that in those 12 weeks, sometimes you put things down that you think you want to do, but
Yep.
you really don't want to do. But I did notice this, that eventually throughout the year, I circle back to it. I
Correct.
may
So
not
it was
do it
in
in
the
a,
back of your head that you needed it. It just wasn't in that immediate.
and I also realized after doing that for a couple of years that it doesn't still have the same punch. I had to go to something different, like
Okay.
pivot, because um I operate in 12-week years now. I operate in 12-week shifts already. So now I had to find something else to take me to the next level on top of that, because that's my normal operating. I look at things 3 months. I always told you that I look at dates. Whenever I'm having a stressful time, little strategy that I use is I'll pick a date in the future. And I'll
Mhm.
say, hey, on this date, everything is going to be okay. And I'm
Sure.
getting ready to pick another date right now because I'm feeling some stress. So I
Mhm.
think I'm going to pick the date of August 31st. And that's going to be, is 31 days in August. I think August 31st, that will be the date that I pick to that things are going to be okay. Let me look at,
Sure.
is it yeah, 31 days. So August 31st, if I can make it to that point, everything's going to be okay. And so
Okay.
that helps me to kind of solidify myself and go, okay, I'm going to be fine.
So what helps me is my whiteboard sessions. My whiteboard sessions are a big deal for me. What it does is it helps alleviate a lot of that stress. I'm a lister, so I list a lot of the things that need to get done and accomplished. And there are some short term items on my list, and then there's some long
Now,
term
the way
items.
she's saying it is like it's real organized. I want y'all to know that whiteboard look like spaghetti. If you look at it, it's like sideways. I'm like, what? We did a whiteboard session. I was like, she's, well, I'm gonna type it up and send it to you. That's a good thing
and,
because
and what happened when I typed it up and sent it to you?
it made sense.
And it looked good, did it not?
To yes, it did. But to the point, if you're sitting in on because I'm sure people are imagining this neat whiteboard. It ain't like
Oh,
that.
so whiteboard sessions are never meant to be neat. And if anyone ever wants to get on one with me, it's amazing. Like I've got people who actually call me. No, you're laughing, but I have people who call me and say, I need a whiteboard session for whatever their issue is. It's never even just about finances. Sometimes it's about the goal making, strategy, planning what you're trying to get after. Like it doesn't always have to be.
And so he could call it
Financial?
a whiteboard session, and so I was thinking about that. So for me, it's not really I just get to know your numbers. I call it knowing your numbers.
Okay.
So whenever I'm talking to someone about something and they're having an issue, I'll say to them, "Okay, let's run your numbers. How are we supposed to get to what you're trying to get to? Tell me what it takes to get there." And then that's how like you talk about work backwards.
Sure.
What's the end goal? Hey, what's the activity level that it takes to get there? So that's the type of thing I like to do with people. I might not know what your industry you're in, but if you tell me you got a widget that a number you got to hit, I can help you hit that number. And so that's what I think about running your business. Your business will run as long as you run it. If you use these strategies, knowing your number, what's the number you got to get to? What's the strategy, your whiteboard, putting together your list, your thoughts of what you have to do, your 12-week year, what breaking it down into chunks that you can handle and you can achieve. Those are strategies that you can use to help your business run and continue to run it.
Another book that you can read talking about what that looks like is the one thing. I think that that's a perfect book for somebody to read if they're trying to figure out what is it supposed to look like. How do you choose one thing or look for the future and try to strategize what that would like? I think that's a way to kind of put it in perspective for people. So I don't know if anybody's ever read it. If you haven't, it's by Gary Keller. Go ahead and read that book. And I'll say be honest with yourself, but also be kind to yourself. I think there's a time that a business owner can really be down on themselves about how they're not doing enough of what they thought it was going to be or what it should be, or someone has told them that they're great and they don't feel so great. So you feel ungrateful. That's one of the things that I struggle with. People tell me all the time, girl, you living the fabulous life. You get to go all over the world. I'm like, yeah, but I'm living out of a suitcase and I'm eating food that I don't really want to eat. And
Now,
sometimes I don't
what
feel
a
good.
perspective. You said a mouthful there. You're going all over the world and your look at it is I'm living out of a suitcase. That's a different perspective on something that looks fabulous for you to say I'm living. You chose to live out that suitcase. So what
But
did
what I'm saying is that's my work. So when someone asks the question, when they say, because I'm not the one on vacation like the people who are going in my groups. And I think that there's a difference and people miss that part. Like, well, I get to participate and it's great to talk. Most time I've already been to the place that we're going, right? Most of the time it's work for me. It's different than when I'm off the clock. And I think that that's the part that people miss. When I used to tell my mama, oh, where are you going now? And she would say something like, it must be nice. I'll be thinking, Ma, I'm going to work.
I will I the closest thing I can say to is when I worked at the bank
Mhm,
and we had all that money and I'd be counting 250 $1 million. It don't matter.
mhm, mhm.
It meant nothing. It was just work. But
Sure.
the minute you said that this was my money, it was totally different. You get what I'm saying? I'm serious. I could count $10,000. It would be like it was nothing. It was just some work. But if you said this 10,000 was my 10,000, automatically this becomes something totally different. So I can't understand to your
Well,
point
I just
that
want
having
everyone to get the perspective of as a business owner, there will be times where people will not understand because they're not
like
in the
you're
know.
working at like you're thinking you're on on the Beyonce tour, you get to work with Beyonce. She get on my nerve because Beyonce, y'all just don't know. Beyonce is you can't talk in the morning because she like it quiet.
Whatever that looks like,
Right.
the true business owner understands
There
that
are
there
perks that come with it, but then
sure.
there's also this is work.
There's the grind, correct. And so, I think that, keeping that in perspective, but in terms of it running, I'm going to keep running my business. What about you, best friend? You going to keep running your business?
It's gonna keep running. I don't know if I'm gonna keep running it, but it'll keep running. The goal is what? To get somebody to run it for me and me walk away. Let somebody babysit this baby. And I heard a term today that they rehomed their dog.
Oh,
What?
yes. Mhm.
Rehome your dog? What
Mhm.
you mean? So
You
I'm gonna
found an
rehome.
alternative place cuz they can't live in my house no more.
I'm gonna rehome my business.
Right.
I think that we want you to get from this is that having a business is hard. Nobody's going
Yeah.
to say it's not hard. It's got to be your passion. It's got to be something that you love to do or
Yeah.
that you're passionate about, or either you making a ton of money to where you're like, I can put
Sure.
up with it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then your business will run as long as you run it. So literally, if you don't want to do it anymore, just stop. You remember Forrest Gump when he was doing the run, he was
Yeah.
running and he ran until one day he stopped
And
and
that
he
was
went
that.
home and that was that. And you like, well, that was easy. It's just that easy.
Just that
So
simple.
while you're stressing, know that you're doing it because you want to do it. You have
Yep.
a choice. Well, I got all this debt. Guess what? If you stop, they just gonna have
There's
to
some consequences, but
you
it
got
can be done.
And you can, I mean, it can work and it can happen. And I wish you well because, best friend, I'm telling you, it's been a wonderful 5 years working alongside you, running these businesses and putting this together and getting this knowledge that we got a wealth of knowledge that I love sharing. I
Me
love
too.
sharing it
Yeah.
because, call Caramel for a whiteboard session. She'll love to go through it and do some
And if you
spaghetti.
wanna know your numbers, let me tell you, because my best friend told me back when, like, "You need to do some activity. You need to do this, to do this, to do this," and I was like, "Oh, it's that simple?"
Let me just clarify because she makes it sound like I was mean. I was not mean.
No, you weren't mean at all.
She was talking about, what I do is sales. So everything in my mind breaks down into you
Correct.
do this to get the sale. How
Mhm.
much of this do you have to do it to get the sale? And I said, well, how do you get? She's, well, we do meetup, and then meetup, we do so many meetups, and we do so many of this, and we so many of that, and we do the call, and some people come to call, and
Yep,
we do a sale. I said, okay, well then you need to do X, Y, X equals X, and Y equals Y plus
correct.
B, and then that's gonna get you sale. And she said, oh, and now she knows her numbers, and every call we making sales. And she still tells me, I go, hey, well, how many sales we make today? Oh, we just did 5. Oh, just 5.
Right.
Okay.
It has become, and so that's what I know that you can bring value to a business owner is understanding what that looks like. How do you get from A to B to that sale, which is C? That's what you need. That's what we're all trying to get after. So,
And
uh,
I think the whiteboard session will help get that information out of my head. You get it out of your head onto where you can see it and
mhm,
it's written down, and that's important. Being able to see the direction. Remember your GPS, being able to understand where you're going, what direction, having that map laid out. It's nothing wrong with having, even if you have to go off course and change, it's okay. As long as you at least started the journey, made some type of plan. If you
sure.
have to change, it's okay.
Awesome.
I love you, best friend.
What's not to love, honey?